All right, peace and blessings, everybody. Welcome back to a show today. Um, well, I guess I would say welcome back to the 93 Supreme channel. Normally, you guys would see me on the Black On Tour, but today I'm having a different type of show. Today, I'm just really talking about a topic that's been in my mind, or been on my mind, excuse me, for a good some time right now. I think it's pretty important. The topic that I have at hand today, and that topic is transferring your pain into purpose. You know, a lot of us have dealt with great pain in our lives, and sometimes we just don't know what to do with that pain. Sometimes we get lost and we figure out, we fall short on faith because we want to know, why is it exactly that we went through all of this pain that we went through in our lives, but yet we have no answers. But before we get into that topic so heavily, I want you guys to check out this quick clip by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as he talks about how after pain or after discomfort comes ease.
God, in his infinite wisdom, allows his chosen people and his chosen vessels to undergo great difficulty. Difficulty is not meant to break them. Difficulty is meant to shape them, to prepare them for his divine purpose. After difficulty comes ease.
Louis Farrakhan. So over the last, 10 years, for those who don't know me, over the last 10 years of my life, I have experienced a great amount of pain. This pain is stretched, from physical pain, to mental pain, to spiritual pain, etc. There's been times where I've been, short on my faith. I've lost a lot of faith, and there's been times where my mental health wasn't as strong as it normally is. Definitely a great amount of physical pain that I endured. For those who don't know me, I was diagnosed with Crohn's in 2009. And whenever I was diagnosed with Crohn's, I was, dealing with a great amount of pain. And anybody who has dealt with a chronic illness can tell you that amount of physical pain can definitely, have an impact on, your mental health and your spiritual health as well. I say it's been many times throughout my life where I gave up on myself. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that, that I was one to think about committing suicide, but I definitely was one who was to self-sabotage himself. And by self-sabotage, I mean that I was in positions where, I knew that whatever was taking over my body, whatever was causing me such pain, had the ability to kill me if I didn't keep pushing forward. So instead of doing the necessary things that I needed to do in order to keep pushing forward, in order to keep on living, I decided to just give up. And I was like, I would let whatever was taking over my body to take over my body, and to go ahead and finish the course. And every time I would be on that brink of death, Allah or God, he would close that door. He would close that door every single time. There have been many times where I knew that if I closed my eyes tonight, I would take my last breath, and God would just come into my life and fill me with that spirit, to where it was like, nah, it's not. This is not gonna be your last breath, and you absolutely have something bigger ahead of you, and there's something that I need you to do. And because of that, or because of that push spiritually, that is why I am still here today. So the first question that I want to ask, I just want to ask, what is pain? According to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, pain is a localized or generalized unpleasant bodily sensation or complex of sensations that causes mild to severe physical discomfort and emotional distress, and typically results from bodily disorders such as injury or disease. And another definition is mental or emotional distress or suffering. So in summary, pain can be an unpleasant sensation or distress towards oneself. The next question I would ask is, how or where does this pain come from or manifest from? Most of the time, we could, as experiences happen, we can point out exactly where, this pain stems from, or, who is the one that is hurting us. And, unless that pain is self-inflicted, even though that pain wasn't necessarily our fault, it is still our responsibility to heal. And I want to say that one more time. Even though that pain is not necessarily our fault, it is still our responsibility to heal. I want to use this example of healing, or this example for that quote that I just said, using the body. For example, if somebody were to slash you with a knife, your body isn't going to call out to the knife or the person who slashed you with the knife and tell them to come back here and fix what they started. Your body is going to go straight into healing mode. It would actually be, quite destructive if your body was to call the knife back over here to help, because as we all know, knives are only good for cutting things. So it would be, it would be counterproductive, if you will, for the knife to come back and try to fix the situation. The only way that your body can heal is if it uses the systems that it has in place to go forward with healing the wound. So for example, you get cut and then your body starts sending platelets into that area to help clot and stop the bleeding. And then your body sends white blood cells, and those white blood cells then start fighting the infection, giving your skin time and the perfect foundation to be able to reproduce skin cells. And then after those skin cells have healed itself and form a barrier or a scab with the blood in place as well, you scab over, and once that scab falls off, you're left with a scar. Most of us are left with a scar, yet the skin is healed over, but then we still have a scar. And what is the purpose of that scar? The purpose of that scar is to be able to remind you of the pain that you went through and why that wound happened in the first place, so that you don't make the same mistake over again. That is to remind you that if you play with knives again, or if someone cuts you, or if you're around the person who can cut you, this is the result that you will get. So next time you will take the necessary precautionary measures so that you don't end up victim to the knife once more. But not only is it a reminder for yourself, but it's also a lesson for someone else, because now you have the ability to teach somebody or to tell somebody, if someone were to ask you what is that scar from, you have the ability now to tell them, exactly where it came from and why, that scar is there. And you can tell them about the knife. You can tell them about the person who was wielding the sword. You can tell them exactly, who and who to be around and who not to be around, so that you don't get cut. And because you're able to tell them this, you're able to prevent, a prolonged suffering stage for that person, instead of that person having to suffer and figure it out for themselves. And you never know, your small story of being cut by a knife may have saved someone's life. You will never know, what your story can do for somebody else, or how it can prevent somebody from causing serious harm to themselves. Somebody isn't gonna tell you, oh yeah, man, I was thinking about going home and playing with some knives, or I was thinking about going and finding somebody who's pretty dangerous and carries a sword and getting cut by them. They're not going to tell you that, but in their mind, they already know what type of situations that they're in and what type of mindset that they have. So if you introduce a new type of mind, if you introduce a new type of way of thinking to them, now they can grasp upon that. As long as they're willing to obtain that wisdom and knowledge and understanding, they're able to grasp that and then utilize that for themselves. So now, you pose the redeeming or the savior type of mindset, and then you give it on to them, and now they are going to be put in a position to where they're not going to suffer like you suffered. And you never know, because sometimes people's situations can come out differently. You might have had a slash to the arm, but they could have a slash to the neck, and because they had a slash to the neck, they may not survive. And because they may not survive, that could have been a situation in which you could have prevented by telling your story. And so this isn't to get, personal, if you will. This is just an example of how you can use pain to turn that into purpose. And like I was saying before, I was dealt a great amount of physical pain from Crohn's disease. As I was dealing from Crohn's disease, I have dealt with pain from getting both of my armpits removed, and then also even getting my whole entire large colon removed, and many different other surgeries that I have experienced a great amount of pain in. And growing up, I used to always ask myself, why am I going through all of this? Why am I dealing with all of this pain? It doesn't make sense to me. What have I done to deserve all of this? I always thought that I was a good kid. I was a smart guy. I was an intelligent human being. I was nice. I was caring. I was respectful. I believed in God. I loved God. And I just never understood why I was dealing with all of this pain, why I was dealing with so much suffering in my life. And so it didn't come to me until after I decided that I wanted to take control over the pain that was in my life, until I wanted or decided to start taking control over the suffering that I was going through. And what I mean by that is I decided that one day I decided that I was just going to stop hurting. And it definitely sounds easier than it is, but I just told myself I was going to stop hurting. I said, today I'm not going to hurt anymore. And obviously I did have more days where I was in pain and more days where I would suffer, but that day I brought myself out of the mindset that I was in pain. I brought myself out of the mindset that I was suffering. And so after bringing myself out of that mindset, I was able to then take the necessary steps that I needed to take in order to actually start feeling better. And then once I was able to start feeling better, I was able to start thinking a little bit more clearly. Because as we know, pain can hinder your ability to think clearly. When you're in a great amount of pain, sometimes you say things and do things to people that you love that, you didn't really want to do, or that you really didn't mean to do, but you only did it because you're in so much pain. You're blinded by, other sensory, logical things, because you're overwhelmed by so much pain. There have been times where I have yelled at nurses, yelled at my family members because I was in so much pain. But that day when I took myself out of the mindset of being hurt and being in pain and suffering, I was able to then start taking the necessary steps of getting myself out of that pain. And once I was able to start thinking clearly, then I could start seeing why it exactly was that I needed to suffer. After realizing why it was important that I needed to suffer, it brings so much more clarity on my life into why, I'm living in the first place. I have helped many people with the Crohn's situation in particular. I've helped many people, just become more comfortable dealing with the Crohn's that they're dealing with colitis and different IBD or intestinal bowel disorders, irritable bowel disorders. I've helped many people, just make small changes to their diet, small changes to the things that they drink, even just from drinking spring water instead of tap water, just them drinking that has helped them out tremendously. Adding small amounts of sea salt, the proper sea salt into their water so that they can feel a little bit more hydrated. Just small things. I've helped out people who are dealing with certain irritable bowel diseases, overcome certain discomforts just from those small switches, because unfortunately the United States medical system is not in the business of curing people. And because they're not in the business of curing people, they're not going to provide you remedies and provide you curable resources. They're only going to give you pills that will help rectify the situation to an extent. And sometimes a lot of times they cause more problems than what they were trying to fix. So And with all that being said, and that's no shade to those who wanted to go to medical school, or who are going to medical school, or are in medicine, because that was me at one point in time. At one point in time, I was going to Howard, and I wanted to, pursue the medical field and pursue a medical degree, and I had to drop out of school in the first semester. And humbly speaking, you can ask my friends. I'm a pretty smart and intelligent young human being, and I was probably the last person that they thought was going to, drop out of school, if you will. And so because of that put me in a dark place, because I didn't know, that was another form of suffering and pain that put me in a dark place, because I didn't know what I was going to be doing after I had dropped out of school. I had no clue what path that I was supposed to be set on to do anything besides, going to school and obtaining my degree. But it was because of that, and it was because of me making the mindset and the decision to not hurt anymore, that I was able to figure out a different path. And it was also the way that I was able to see and show myself that I'm not actually, in the business or interested in the business of the typical standardized United States medicine or medical system. I'm definitely in the business of healing, redeeming, and saving people, and saving our people, but just not in the form of the standardized United States medical system. And so with that being said, so I had to drop out of school. I was dealing with all of this pain from the chronic illness that I was dealing with. And all of those two things together, it was just, so much pain and pressure that was on my life. And, it was so hard to bear at times that just once again, I was dealing with stronger, I was dealing with a harder time accepting God, a harder time, dealing with the faith. And it took times to where I would have to truly break down and submit myself to God in order to see, that change in my life. And not submit myself to a spooky God, but submit myself to the God that was within me. Submit myself to the God that resides in my mind and resides, within all of us. Because if it wasn't for me submitting to that God that was inside of myself, I wouldn't have been able to pull myself out of that slump. And even here recently as well, I just got fired from my job. and I was fired for performance-based reasons, but I was one of the hardest workers in that job. To get fired off of performance-based issues, and you're one of the great performers, always gives you a question mark, like, how does that happen? You know what I'm saying? But when you start questioning certain powers, and you start questioning, certain policies that are at place, the higher ups, they get uncomfortable. So, I started questioning a lot of things that were going on in the workplace, because I wasn't necessarily approving of that. And I decided that I wanted to, try to make some changes. And I believe those changes offended some people. So, I was let go. But even then, if it wasn't for me getting myself out of that mindset of being hurt and being in pain so much beforehand, this would have been another situation that would have really did a damper onto my faith and my mental health. But this time it was actually like a breath of fresh air, because this time I was able to, take a step back and really take the time and the energy that I needed to focus on my brand, to focus on my, my businesses that I have and my side hustles, and turning those side hustles into true streams of income. And if it wasn't for those side hustles and those streams of income, I probably wouldn't been as comfortable being fired, because I had money on the side. I knew the importance of saving and budgeting, so I'm still able to pay my bills. By Allah's grace, I'm able to pay my bills and able to sustain myself, even though I don't have a typical 9-to-5 job. And then after that, after I, have mastered, being laid off, and then being able to build up something that was that turns into, you know, a multi-million-dollar company or whatnot, then I'm able to go down and trickle down and teach others who have maybe lost their jobs, because I'm able to relate to them. So now that I've related to them, I can teach others, you know, what type of mindset and what type of grind and hustle that they'll need in order to make themselves successful working for themselves. And if they don't want to work for themselves, at least obtaining the mindset that it's not over. You know, not everybody wants to work for themselves, or even not everybody wants to obtain or have a business. And because of that, there's so many different avenues, you know, within pain into purpose, because it doesn't have to be specifically like mine. You know, I can just teach you how to have a stronger mindset, and how to have a stronger mindset so that whenever you do endure pain and suffering, you know how to overcome it, so that it doesn't take such a toll on your mental health and your spiritual health and your physical body as well. Because a lot of people don't understand that stress can really be debilitating to your body. It can cause many different illnesses and diseases within your body, like heart disease, etc. And so with that being said, you know, once I'm able to master that, I'm able to help others or cut other people's suffering short. I can cut it short, or if not, I can prevent it. So, you know, by Allah's grace anyways. And with all of that being said, you know, I can't sit here and act like I did all of this by myself. Because I definitely had a strong support group of friends, family, and people that I've met along the way, mentors, etc., who have helped me establish this mindset. You know, and that's another, you know, important thing as well when it comes to dealing with pain, is that you have to be able to accept help from others. You have to be able to accept, you know, help and accept wisdom is the word I'm looking for. Accept wisdom from others. You have to be teachable. If you're not teachable, then, you know, it's very easy to fall back on, you know, the issues that you're dealing with, because you don't know it all. You don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? We don't know everything. And if we walk throughout life as if we do know everything, then we'll come to a point in our lives to where we're not going to be able to get over that hump, or we get over that hump, and we get over that hump more damaged, you know, than we were whenever we started making that walk to get over that hump. And now we got more humps to get over, because we have to knock off all the damage that we created on ourselves as we were trying to get over that hump. So being teachable is a very, very important aspect in life as well, when it comes to dealing with pain and suffering and getting yourself out of that slump. But at the same time, nevertheless, you know, getting yourself out of that slump and dealing with the pain, healing from the pain and the suffering is indeed, in fact, your responsibility. So at the end of the day, it is still your responsibility to take the necessary steps and measures that you need to take in order to get yourself better. A few things that I just want to leave you guys off with before I end this video. And, you know, one of them is this, that the first thing you need to do whenever you're starting, you know, this journey of getting yourself out of this pain and suffering, is to acknowledge that pain. Acknowledge the source of that pain. Where is that pain coming from? You know, where is it exactly? Why is it exactly, you know, causing you that pain? Or why or how is it causing you that pain and that suffering? And then after that, you need to make the decision that you don't want to hurt anymore. Once you make that decision that you don't want to hurt anymore, you can now start taking those necessary steps that you need to take in order to start pulling yourself out of that slump. And then there's a last important step, you know, and that last important step is to release yourself from that title. You don't want to be walking around trying to get yourself out of this pain, but yet you're still carrying the burden of that title of that pain. Once I decided that I wasn't going to hurt and suffer anymore, I started telling myself I didn't have Crohn's. And I wasn't telling myself in a way that was silly or crazy. You know, it's just that once I just started telling myself I don't have it. You know, words are very powerful. Affirmations are very powerful. And since I started telling myself, man, I don't have Crohn's anymore. People would ask me, hey, how you doing? How are you and your Crohn's? I'd be, me and my who? Like, me and my who? I'm good. I don't have Crohn's. I ain't dealing with Crohn's. I've been feeling pretty good. Actually. I could be hurting like a dog on the inside, but I'm telling people, you know, nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't that I was, you know, just trying to lie, but I was trying to rebuild my mindset to stop expressing, not only internally in my own mind, but externally to others, that I was suffering. because I didn't want to suffer anymore. And that starts first in the mind. So I had to release myself from that painful title that, I was a college dropout, and then I was suffering from Crohn's. Yes, those titles are true to my story, but like I just said, they're true to my story. It's not who I am today. I'm not a college dropout, and I'm not somebody who is suffering with Crohn's. So, those are things that were in the past. Those are things that you can still learn from. But once again, you have to release those titles off of you so that you no longer carry the energy or the painful energy that those words have on you as you're trying to go throughout your journey. And at the end of all of that, people, at the end of the day, it just really all just takes, time, consistency, time, endurance, all of that put together, because, it's not easy. It's not easy. You'll definitely need, a good support group, a good circle behind you. You'll need those who care about you, and you also have to make sure that you care about yourself. It's like I said, it's not a easy journey. It's definitely hard, and it's not quick either. It's not something that you just say, okay, I'm done hurting and I'm done claiming this, and then tomorrow, the next day, you're cured or you feel better, or the situation is going to come across times to where you will run into roadblocks. There were many times where I ran into a great amount of pain that stemmed from Crohn's, or I ran into a great amount of mental doubt because I, would see the debt that I owed Howard, or I just saw that my friends graduating, and as proud as I was for them, I still was like, dang, man, I should be graduating. Damn, man, look at me right here. I'm working, when I was working at Racetrack at the time, I was like, man, I'm here working at a gas station. I should be doing this and I should be doing that. Like there are definitely times where you'll be hard on yourself, but that's just a part of the process. And throughout that whole process, you'll just be writing your story. You'll be writing your story, and you'll be obtaining your purpose. And then eventually, at the end of it all, it'll become much more clear. Once you've shaken that pain off of your back, once you've gotten through that storm, once you walk through that valley, that's being watched by the shadow of death, you'll finally be able to see, what it is and why you are going through everything that you went through. And after you see all of that, you'll finally figure out what it is that your purpose is for. Because not everybody's purpose is to be a motivational speaker. Not everybody's purpose is to build $1 billion, $1 million companies. You might have to be, your purpose or what you want to do may be just, working at a corporate job, or it may be art, it may be dancing, music, etc. But you can find ways to apply the pain that you had and, that you dealt with, apply that to your job. Apply that, all of those lessons that you learned from that pain, and apply that to your job, so that those who are in that same circle that you're in and are dealing exactly with what you're dealing with, they're able to then relate to you and be able to pull themselves out, because they have seen your story. They have heard you. They talked to you. You told them about your story. Being vulnerable is a big thing, man. Whenever we're vulnerable, to an extent, of course, don't make yourself vulnerable and open to everybody, because some people are out to get you. But, being vulnerable to those that you can tell or feel that are genuine, around you, being vulnerable helps them relate to you. Because they don't want to be vulnerable as much as you don't want to be vulnerable. So if you break that glass and you're a little bit more vulnerable than they are, then they can relate to you. And now they have the ability to heal from something that they never thought that they could heal from, or get past something that they never thought that they could get past. So just keep on pushing forward, everybody. I love you. Peace. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed that wonderful episode. Pain into purpose, man, it's important. It's just an important topic because, like I said, I've been through a lot and a great amount of pain in my life, and I learned a lot, dealing with that pain. And I really hope that what I told you today was really something that you can utilize in your life and help you get through whatever painful whatever painful and suffering situations that you're going through, it's definitely a damper on your mental health. And speaking of mental health, man, I'm wearing one of my brand's mental health tour shirts right now, Vent Tour shirts. And, if you guys could just really, truly take some time to go to worldapparelco.com, check out the website, and also, check out what gear that we have and cop some gear, man, because the proceeds to that gear that you cop definitely goes back into our community some way, somehow. We're doing a scholarship for $400 or $500 scholarships for college students who are in need of some financial assistance. Like I said, I dropped out of school because I ain't had no money, you know what I'm saying? And we all know somebody, if not ourselves, who were in need of some financial assistance. So, we're doing $400 or $500 scholarships, and we need you guys' help to help us reach that goal, man. We appreciate you all. Peace.